Hi, Shelly here. For this week's project, I'm going to be working on a 16 by 20 inch hardboard canvas. And the idea goes back to my paper dyeing video from a few months back, where I had put some paint and some alcohol inks, I think, and some different things. And I had watched a gal that had done a video where she'd wadded up the papers. And that was a really neat effect. I had no idea what I could do with such a thing at that time, but I just came up with this idea recently, and so that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to use that textured paper today. I've got a couple of greens, a few blues out here, and what I've learned is if you want to get it nice and wet. You can see that I'm just spraying it with a few squirts of water. I'm not going crazy. I don't want it sopping wet to where my paper's just going to fall apart. But I am getting it pretty wet. Then I'm putting on my paint kind of randomly and quickly. I'm not being careful about it, as you can see. And then I'm wadding up my paper. I want it to be really fine wrinkles in my paper. I've learned that you don't want to wad them up and leave them wadded. It's better if you wad them up, really get those nice little wrinkles in there, but then kind of unfurl them a little bit, open them up a little bit, and then set them aside to dry. I had much better luck doing it that way. You'll see I still get a few holes here and there as I go to open them up later, but it was nothing I couldn't work with. I did mostly greens with some blue added in, but I did do a couple where I started out with the blue and then added a little bit of the green in. And I'm glad I did, because I wind up using those as well. I made a bunch of these because I didn't know how many I was going to need, how many were going to turn out, how many would rip, so I wanted to make sure I had plenty on hand. And I wind up having a few left over, but again, I like to have a stash ready to go for when you just never know. While my papers are drying, I start in on my collage background. And I pull out some papers that I think that I might use, starting out with this map that I wind up not using at all. But that's kind of how things go. I made some new collage papers out of some old books that I found online, and I'm thinking about using those, but I wind up not using those either. I love this process of handling the papers, going through the papers. I don't know if you enjoy this as well, but I just love going through what I have, and using what I have is always fun. I like new stuff too, but I really like using what I have leftovers as well. So somewhere in here I decide, I don't think I'm going to go with torn paper. I think I'm going to go with straight edges on this one. So I pull out my paper cutter and switch things up a little bit. With my game planner ready, I get out my matte medium and start applying my papers. As you can see, I still think I'm going to use my map pieces at this point, but as I go along, you just got to go and see how you feel at the time with how what you've done looks, and change accordingly. I don't think I ever get it put back on the way I had originally laid it out. But I'm okay with that. I have to have a starting point, a kind of a vision for it in the beginning, and then I kind of let myself go and just have fun with it. I'm adding a little bit of tissue paper that I've stamped on here as well. In hindsight, I should have left the white stamped tissue paper off because really it blends in with my modeling paste, but it didn't hurt anything. And it just adds a little more texture. Once my canvas is dry, I clean up my edges with an X-Acto knife. And then I grab a stencil and start applying my modeling paste. I'm trying to get a good bit on here, but I want to keep it pretty flat, not too raised. I also want to be able to apply the next area to my right without totally destroying what I've already done there on this next edge. So I'm trying to clean it off pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to line it up, try not to push too hard and get into what I've already done, but finish off that edge. I'm wanting to cover the entire canvas. This was later in the day, so I let my canvas dry overnight, and then I took it outside the following morning. I like to use a sanding block and kind of scrub in a circular motion so that I don't want to bother my collage underneath. I want to stay on top of that texture. So I kind of scrub on top all over until I get all the high points off. Then I use a brush to remove all the dust that I can outside, and then I come back in and use a couple of baby wipes all over to make sure that I get any fine dust that I missed with the brush. I really love the way the collage turned out with the modeling paste on top. And now I'm just going to go in with some mustard yellow, as I often do, using some water so that I can see all that my collage goodness in the background. Next, I'm mixing in a little bit of burnt umber to give me a kind of more, I want some varying colors of that mustard in my background. So that's what I'm doing here. I dry that a little bit, and then I'll come in with some water and the burnt umber on its own and just put that here and there, putting some on, taking some off. And then I add a little bit of off-white into the mix, creating a little bit more interest in my background. My background is dry, and now it's time to come and finish opening up my papers and see what I've got. You can see the holes in a couple of them, but I've got a lot of good area to use. Some of them that I left a little bit more wadded up have a little bit more issues, but I am able to get something out of each one of my papers. And most of them, I got the whole paper. You also see a few spots where some of the paint, where the paper was touching itself. There's some white spots here and there, but I'm not concerned about those because I know that I'll have some touching up to do in the end, and I can always touch up those places if I have a few of those. I grab a black permanent marker, and I'm just going to go through and mark out where I want my tree trunks of my forest. And then I grab a little bit wider round brush, a small round brush, and go in with some dark gray and go over all those lines to complete my tree trunks. Now I'll go through my papers and start tearing some what I think would be good looking leaves areas. I don't know. The tops of my trees. I kind of want them roundish in places, in clusters maybe in places. So not really worrying about how I tear them. I just want to, I don't want a lot of points. I want them just kind of round, and I want to mix up my colors and my, a lot of the green with some of the blue. Once happy with my arrangement, I pull out my matte medium, and how I decided to go about this. Again, I've never done this before, but I just put a good bit of matte medium down so I make sure I've got plenty on the back. And then I'm putting a good bit on the front. I'm tapping all over, pushing down, but not too hard because I don't want to get rid of any of that good texture. I figure if I've got some air pockets, that's okay. If I've got a whole bunch of wrinkles, that is what I want. I want all of that texture, but I want it to be stuck down. So that's how I'm doing it, and it actually worked really well. Using some gel medium, a little thicker gel medium might have been great too. I might try that next time, but this worked great. And then as always, I grab a couple of baby wipes and pounce gently over my entire canvas just to make sure everything's even and the texture is all the same. With my canvas dry, I put out a couple of greens and get a liner brush, and I'm just going to go around and tap on a little paint in those areas where you can see there's a little bit of white showing through on either my edges or in the middle, wherever it is. I'm going to take care of that here. As I'm looking it over, I'm thinking that the left side's a little bare here. So I thought, well, you know, we're just going to fix that. So we'll tear a few more pieces and paint a couple more branches. So now we'll go in and touch up the white areas here and there. Well, that's my project. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Here's a little better look at the texture. I hope that you'll give this technique a try if you haven't before, and I hope you'll join me in my next video. Bye for now.